In the summer of 1212, a 12-year-old shepherd boy from Cloyes-sur-le-Loire in France named Stephen stood outside the French royal court and announced that Jesus Christ had personally handed him a letter. That letter, he claimed, ordered him to lead an army of children to Jerusalem. King Philip II turned him away. Stephen went anyway. And within weeks, 30,000 children were following him south toward the Mediterranean Sea. You were never taught that part. You were never taught that the adults who should have stopped this didn't just fail to stop it. Some of them organized it. Here's what your history class skipped. The Children's Crusade wasn't a single event. It happened twice in the same summer. Two separate movements, in two separate countries, led by two separate boys, with the same impossible destination and the same catastrophic ending. The official crusades had been failing for decades. Jerusalem had fallen back to Saladin in 1187. The Fourth Crusade, launched just 8 years before this, had ended in the catastrophic sack of Constantinople, a Christian city, by Christian soldiers. The whole project of crusading was collapsing in credibility. And into that vacuum stepped children. The first movement began with Stephen of Cloyes around May of 1212. He preached with extraordinary charisma. Contemporary chroniclers described crowds weeping as he spoke. He promised the Mediterranean Sea would part for them, just as the Red Sea had parted for Moses. They would walk to Jerusalem on dry land. No swords needed. Their innocence alone would reclaim the Holy Land. 30,000 people, most of them teenagers and young adults, though many were genuinely children, followed him from Vendôme toward Marseille. The journey south took weeks through brutal summer heat. Many turned back. Many died of exhaustion and starvation before they ever saw the water. And then they reached Marseille. And the sea did not part. Most of the survivors dispersed and walked home. But 7 ships appeared in the harbor. 2 merchants, Hugh the Iron and William the Pig, those are their actual names recorded in the chronicles, offered free passage to the Holy Land. Historians have argued for centuries about their motives. We know what happened next because some of the children survived to report it. 2 of the 7 ships sank in a storm near Sardinia. Everyone aboard drowned. The remaining 5 ships arrived not in the Holy Land but in Bougie and Alexandria, in North Africa. The children were sold into slavery. Some accounts say they were taken to the court of the Caliph in Morocco. A small group who refused to convert to Islam were executed. None of them ever returned to France. If this is the first time you've heard any of this, subscribe right now. We cover the history they left out of your textbooks. Every week. Now here is the second layer that changes everything. While Stephen was preaching in France, a German boy named Nicholas of Cologne was doing the exact same thing, completely independently, in the Rhineland. Nicholas was around 10 years old. He drew a following estimated at between 10,000 and 20,000 people, including children, priests, women, and adults who should absolutely have known better. He led them south over the Alps into Italy in midsummer. The Alps in midsummer sounds manageable until you understand these were medieval peasants with no equipment and no food supply. 2/3 of his followers died crossing the mountains. When the survivors reached Genoa in August, the sea again did not part. The city of Genoa offered citizenship to anyone who wanted to stay. Most did. Nicholas pushed on to Pisa, then to Rome. Pope Innocent III met with them. He did not send them home. He told the boys they were absolved of their crusade vow but encouraged them to renew it when they came of age. Then he sent them away. Nicholas allegedly continued to Brindisi on Italy's heel. The port authorities there refused to let them sail. The movement collapsed. Nicholas disappears from the historical record entirely. Some accounts say he died on the return journey. His father, who had encouraged the whole enterprise hoping for glory, was reportedly hanged by grieving parents when he came back to Cologne. Here is the part that should genuinely disturb you. Medieval scholars debated for centuries whether this event even happened. Some historians in the 19th and 20th centuries argued it was mythologized, that the participants were not children at all but poor adult migrants, that the Latin word pueri meaning boys was misunderstood. The revisionist argument gained real traction in the 1970s. But the primary sources, the chronicles written within living memory of 1212, are specific. They name Stephen. They name Nicholas. They describe ages. They describe the route. The revisionist reading required dismissing too much direct testimony. What we're left with is this. In 1212, the organized church, the merchant class, and the political establishment of two major European nations watched tens of thousands of young people walk toward death and either enabled it, profited from it, or simply looked away. The adults who sold those children into slavery in Alexandria faced no recorded punishment. The pope who sent them back into the Italian heat was later canonized. The system that generated the crusading impulse, the theology of sacred violence, the idea that suffering proved righteousness, continued for another 200 years. The Children's Crusade sits at the intersection of every uncomfortable truth about medieval Europe. The exploitation of religious fervor. The disposability of the poor. The way institutions protect themselves by sacrificing individuals. None of that ended in 1212. You can trace direct lines from the psychology of that summer to religious mass movements, to the exploitation of youthful idealism, to the way charismatic authority bypasses critical thinking, all the way to the present day. 30,000 children marched toward a miracle that never came. The sea stayed exactly where it was. And the world moved on as if it hadn't happened. That is what gets buried. Not the events themselves. The meaning underneath them. If you want more history like this, the stories they considered too complicated or too uncomfortable to put in the curriculum, subscribe and hit the bell. Next week we go somewhere equally dark. You won't want to miss it.